Hi everyone, and well, of course, greetings everyone. And actually, hold on. Oh yeah, actually, this intro has gone a little bit too long, so why don't we change the scenery now? There we go. Well, greetings everyone. Welcome to the Story Corner. Storyteller here for you. Hopefully enjoyment. And once again, the problem with the chair is still on the way. I'm still sucking into it. Every time I try to sit here and read a good book or read a good story or anything to myself or to anyone else, this happens. Because I really have to, one of these days, maybe try to get myself a new better chair. well, we have to work with what we have. So, very late happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Hold on. Yeah, I have some good old blueberry juice with added some rum and honey for my throat for this little stream. So yes, like the title says, we are going to do some late Valentine's Day stories, or fanfics in this case. This I had planned to do this on the actual Valentine's Day, but other things happened to me, and a lot have happened that made me rather busy in the other life. The life beyond this one, which might be listened one day. But yes, because of these little obstacles, I have to move the stream for today. So yes, but then again, it's sometimes good to you could say maybe this is not a Valentine's Day, but like with Japan, it's the White Day. Reading or whatever you feel like, but then again, I many times like to think that February itself is a full month of Valentine's Day, or Valentine's month, you could say. So almost any day is best, but then again, the official Valentine's Day would be the better option. But hopefully for the next time we can do it on time. But we shall see. But I will certainly keep my promises that if I promise you all that we'll be reading some stories, we'll be reading some stories. So I hope everyone has had a good Sunday, or maybe it's now Monday somewhere else. I don't know. But hopefully everyone has had a good weekend and a Sunday and are doing quite well. So I guess without any further ado, maybe we should go for the first story. And it is a little funny little one. Let's just say that it's the fanfic we are going to read is about friendship, you could say, although in this case shipping. Oh dear. But yeah, the title already is giving away here. Let me move this here a little bit. Actually, sorry, let's see now if I can make the font. Oh, there we go. Let's make things a little bit more classier. There we go. So yes, we're going to read a story called Come On Rarity, Tell Us a Story, by the one and only, by the writer of Captain Princess. Excuse me, I'm going to put their name here. Oh dear. Oh dear, that's a big one. That's a big one. I still try to get things working here. Apologies. Dear. much better. Yes, there we go. Captain Princess, get over there. So everyone can see you, Leslie. Yes, I apologize about the scuffness here. I still try to get the hang of everything. And I don't know what really was happening with my OBS. For some reason it just didn't want to do any streaming. But we're here now. And I guess without any further ado, we shall begin. We'll have a quick sip again. Yes, my apologies again. If anyone has been checking out on my Twitter, I had a bit of a going down sickness, so and my throat still hasn't fully healed from it for some reason. But then again, it is feeling much better now. But now, without any further ado, let us begin our first story. It was another quiet night in Ponyville. The moon was shining, the stars were twinkling, and the most ponies were drifting off into the warm embrace of Luna's dreamscape. Most ponies, but not all. Come on, sis, please! Sweetie Belle's plea reached an ear-shattering crescendo. The entirety of Carousel Boutique seemed to shake from the deafening blast of sound, and the serenity of the Ponyville night was shattered. Brody heaved an exasperated sigh and massaged the bridge of her snout with her hoof. All right, Sweetie Belle nudged her fellow Crusaders. Told ya, it would work! Yeah, we didn't doubt you, Scoodle deadpanned as she rubbed her ears. What I said was, I don't think you should give Rarity the full treatment this late night. Well, it worked, and I know Apple Bloom agreed with me, Sweetie Belle replied with a pout. What? Y'all saying something? Apple Bloom replied, holding a hoof to her ear. See, she agrees, Sweetie Belle added with a sage nod. Scoodle simply face-hooved. Girls, please, if we are going to do this, Rarity indicated the squishy bed with the outstretched hoof. The three fillies dashed into the bed, lining up under the covers with wide eyes and expectant grins. Thank you. Now, what kind of story would you three like to hear? Rarity asked as she slided up to the edge of the bed. The unicorn pulled a chair to her with her magic and lowered herself into it with all of her usual grace. Something with adventure, Scoodle chirped. Something romantic, Apple Bloom chimed in. Something with Canter Sneeze inspired architecture, Sweetie Belle added. The other two fillies stared blankly at the young unicorn. What? You guys took the good ones, Sweetie Belle said with another little pout. Rarity allowed herself a warm chuckle. Well, I'm not too well versed in the tales of adventure, but I might be able to oblige Apple Bloom's request. Let's see how these usually start. Oh yes, now I have a little sippy break. There we go. And we begin Rarity's tale, read by yours truly. Once upon a time, in a magical kingdom, there was a beautiful unicorn princess. She was renowned the kingdom for her alabaster coat, luscious purple mane, bright expressive eyes, and refined manners. The entirety of the gentry sought her hoof in marriage, but alas, she turned away all her suitors. She knew not why, for all she needed, and all she had ever dreamed of. But she was a very sad princess, and in her lack of gaiety, she could possibly entertain the idea of marriage. The unicorn would spend her days staring out the window of exquisite tower within which her quarters were located, and heave a great sighs for life and its many beautiful intricacies no longer appealed to her. She felt as though she was lost, adrift in a sea of paltry routine. Hers was a world of torturous small talk and pleasant nothings. Not even her famed skills in sewing brought her the pleasure it once had. The needle and thread that once had swung happily through fabric now lay deserted in a corner of a bedroom alongside half-completed dresses and disorderly piles of fabric. There were remnants of happier epoch, when the electric thrill of inspiration flowed through her veins. One day, as deflated mare cast her gaze across the grounds of her family's castle, a strange sound met her ears. Some pony was whistling a soft and melodious tune. The princess's mind latched onto the musical expression, holding tightly to it, hoping it could save her from her stupor. The melody itself was beautiful and yet rustic, like an unpolished gem. The princess's ears twitched, straining to catch every wonderful note. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the whistling ceased. Desperate to discover the identity of the pony whose serenade had briefly lifted her haze, she cast her eyes about the grounds. A frantic scanning, however, revealed nothing of note. No charming prince, gracious princesses, or gallant knights of the realm were hiding beneath her window. The only pony she could see was the hard-working earth pony gardener, whose orange coat and blonde mane glistened with the sweat of a hard day's labor. The realization dawned slowly in the mind of the princess. Could this commoner actually possess the secret of freeing her from the dungeon of joylessness that had become her life? She decided that commoner or no, she had to know if it was true. "You there?" she called for the gardener. "Yes, your highness," the gardener replied, her twigging accent betraying her low birth. We're just whistling a tune," the princess ventured cautiously. I was, your highness. I hope I didn't bother you none," the gardener responded in an unsure tone. Indeed, she was right to be nervous, for many a gardener and servant have been dismissed on the whim of a dissatisfied noble. The princess chose her next words carefully. "Would you, if you please, continue?" Though the princess knew it was well within her rights as noble to request next to anything of a servant, but a fluttering feeling in her chest made what was objectively a simple request feel as though she were asking something much more intimate of the gardener. "If you like, ma'am," the gardener replied, and once more began her tune. The princess sighed contentedly and rested her head against the window frame, losing herself in the charming melody. As the tune once again finished, the princess looked down at the earth pony once more, seeing not a simple gardener, but a means of salvation. "Gardener, if you could, would you come back and whistle that tune again tomorrow?" the princess asked, her eyes really, truly sparkling with delight for the first time in ages. I don't see why not. The Earth Pony replied genuinely. Glad you enjoyed it so much. From then on, apologies. From then on, every day the gardener would come to the princess's window and whistle her a little song. Before long, the two began to talk and share with each other. The gardener would speak of her siblings and ailing grandmother, and how she worked so hard to support them. Between her job and her family, the orange mare had never had time to find any pony which to bond. No pony to listen to her worries or laugh with her at her choice. The princess, on the other hoof, would talk about all the silly little court rituals and how she had to say everything in a certain way and memorize the language of her house and so on and so forth. To this the gardener only laughed, and strangely enough, the princess found herself laughing too. Whenever the gardener was around, the sadness that had consumed her would abate. More than that, when the orange mare visited, the sadness was replaced by most wonderful feeling of warmth and contentment that the princess had ever known. Late one evening, the princess returned to her window to observe the stars in the sky, and was reminded of the little freckles that had been brushed across the snout of the gardener. The thought made her blush, but it also made her happy. Then, quite expectantly, a little whistle tune reached her ear. She looked down to see the gardener stand at the foot of her tower, a single white rose lodged in her teeth. Is that for me? The princess asked, both excited and frightened by the prospect. The orange man nodded. The dark of the night was all that hid her blushing features. The unicorn levitated the rose and inspected it carefully. It was unblemished and without flaw. To find such a rose, even among the royal gardens, would have required no small feature of effort. The unicorn felt a tear trickle down her cheek. She idly wiped it away with her hoof and beamed down at the other mare. Thank you so much, the princess called down to the gardener. Suddenly, an idea struck the noble unicorn, and she would not let it slip from her mind. Wait there one moment, please, if you would. The earth pony shifted her weight in her confusion, but did as she was requested. Inside the tower, a whirlwind of activity had been unleashed. Shears, fabric, tape, pins, and, of course, needle and thread all flew about the room in a furious tempest. Before long, the princess reappeared at the window and levitated a small fabric object down to the gardener. The gardener caught the object in her hooves and examined it. It looked like her a moment. It took her a moment before she realized that she was looking at a hand-sewed fabric flower. It made it in orange that matched her coat. I'm no earth commoner, and not even a wealthy one at that. How could she ever gain approval of her father, the king? But the princess was clever, and more than that, she was driven. One morning over breakfast, the princess approached her father. Father, may I beg an audience? For I am most troubled. The king smiled at his daughter and nodded. Why, yes, of course, my darling daughter. Now, what troubles you? The princess imitated a face of concern and spoke very slowly. Well, dear father, I have been meeting with a suitor. The king smiled more widely still. So, this is the cause of your renewed vigor, eh? He was quite happy to finally hear that his daughter had been entertaining the thought of a marriage. Yes, it is, but I am troubled, for I do not know if my suitor is wise enough, you see, the princess said, leading her father into a trap. Wise enough for my daughter. The king placed a hoof to his chin in thought. Yes, I suppose any suitor should be wise. Perhaps you should test this suitor. The king slipped into a deep thought once more. Yes, I have a perfect test. Bring your suitor before me, and I shall administer the Clover the Clever's 6 questions. The alabaster mare smiled up at her father. Do you think that would prove them worthy? Do I have your word? The king nodded, and the jester held with imperial finality. Any suitor capable of answering the questions is worthy beyond question, and receive my approval. You have my word. The princess beamed, for her plan had been unmitigated success. The next day, the princess walked into her father's court, and with her walked the gardener. What is the meaning of this? The king asked incourteously. The princess remained unflappable. This is my suitor. Administer questions, father. This is the suitor? This mare? This earth pony? This servant? The king's face had gone momentarily purple with shock and rage, but still, his daughter remained resolute. You said any pony capable of answering the questions would receive your approval. Ask your questions, father. The king rubbed a hoof to his forehead. On the one hoof, this mare had renewed his daughter's spirit. On the other, she was nothing more than a common earth pony mare. What would court say when hearing of this scandal? Regardless of any of this, he had given his word, and to go back on it would be a violation of his honor that he would not tolerate. All right, my little pony, the king said, emerging from his contemplation. Answer me these 6 questions for the hoof of my fair daughter. What is rounder than a ring? What is higher than the trees? What is worse than a mare's curse? What is deeper than the sea? Which bird sings first and which sings best? Where does the dew first fall? Now, the gardener may have lacked the formal schooling of the nobility, as well as much knowledge of their etiquette and customs, but she was by no means a fool. The orange mare stood for several moments in thought before raising her eyes confidently to the king. the spear of the planet is rounder than a ring. The kingdom of Pegasi is higher than any tree I've ever seen. Discards worse than any mare's curse, and totters for sure deeper than the sea. The lark is the first thing in these gardens at least, and for last bits, the thrush sings the best. As for where the dew first falls, well, that'll be the earth. The king stood shocked. Correct. Oh, correct. He managed, stunned by his own words. Here I have my royal approval. The unicorn wrapped her hooves around the neck of the earth pony and pulled her close. The two stared at each other, mutual expression of shock and unceasing mirth mirrored in each other's face. Then the two slowly pulled each other even closer, their legs parted ever so slightly. I hope you know those fillies being asleep for almost an hour now. Rarity jumped from her foot in the air, startled by the voice that had come from the doorway to the guest bedroom. She held a hoof to her heart, and it felt pounding against her ribcage. Oh, sweet Celestia Applejack! Don't do that! The orange mare chuckled. Well, I just thought I'd come over and deliver Applebloom's toothbrush. It seems our little crusader here thought having a sleepover meant leaving her hygiene at home. She retrieved a little satchel from her saddlebags and placed it in the next to the bed which held the three sleeping fillies. Wait a second, realization dawned on Rarity. If you know how long they've been asleep, well, yeah, okay. I was listening to your story. So much about Elf Pony and Unicorn. Was it? Applejack said, unable to quite hide the blush creeping across her face. Rarity said with a little grin, her own snowy features going a bit pink. Would you like to see how it ends? Applejack smiled softly and simply nodded her approval. The unicorn put her forelegs around the Elf Pony's neck and two shared a gentle kiss. I reckon you forgot a pretty important part of there, shouldn't you? Applejack whispered to her companion. Oh yes, of course, darling. How could I forget? The unicorn replied with a look of utter contentment. They both lived happily ever after. There we go. A little bit longer story, and yes, I have some ponies here, but this was a good written story in my opinion, and I really liked it. But and if anyone has been following me around enough, you know that I have been a pony fan. I am a pony fan. There's no denying that. So you do with that knowledge what you feel like. Well, this wasn't the only story I have. I have a few more left. Don't worry. Let's just finish that. For the next one, again, I try to be very. When I was first of all, when I was looking for the story, the different kind of stories, I tried to be open as possible, trying to find many different kind of stories. And well, most of these are specific fandoms that I have quite knowledge either by myself or someone else has introduced me to these. And this next one, let's just say, you could say that this story is more meant for someone I know, who is a big Supernatural fan and a big fan of this ship. So, without any further ado, hold on, let me just get the title first for you. Next, after ponies, like I said, we're going for some little bit more supernatural. So, story is simply called Just a Small Green Ball. Apologies, there's still some little sickness left in me, it seems. Yes, a supernatural fanfic story called A Small Green Ball by You Change Me. Oh. Should've known. Should've read. Oh dear. Well, the story is written by. Oh dear. Udi. I thought I had that copied. Well, there we go. Now it should work. You changed me, Destiel. So yes, we are going to read a little supernatural story, a ship story featuring the angel Castiel and everyone's lovely bad boy Dean Winchester. Like I said, I try to find many different kind of stories with different romantic pairs, and just to make sure that everyone you all know, which I should have told at the beginning of this stream, but I'm still getting hang of this all. So anyway, I try to look for something, any kind of a story that is not like very raunchy or that, well, just in a family. It would be quote unquote family friendly. So when we'll be doing more of these reading streams in the future, I will assure you I won't be reading any smutty stuff here. We're all in more for the good wholesomeness most of the time, and maybe some sadness here and there also. But for now, let us begin this supernaturally romantic story. Dean is in the kitchen of the bunker. He's in a good mood, humming Led Zeppelin songs while cooking. Sam and Aileen took Jack out of the bunker for a few days, but based on the quantity of food Dean already made in less than 2 hours, no one would think there are only 2 here, and even less than one is human and the other an angel that doesn't really eat. He's flipping the pancakes. He's prepared when he feels a strong and warm body pressing against his back, arms wrapping around his waist. Hello, Dean, the gravely and familiar voice whispered into his ear, triggering goosebumps on his neck, an arm, and a smile. Then a soft and tender lips kissing on the pulse joint. Are you already that hungry? No, I'm not. Dean answers like he's hiding something. That's when he feels that one touch leaving. He turns around and faces Cass, looking at him with squinted eyes and his head tilted. Dean, what did you cook all these? Cass asks, his eyes wandering on the kitchen counter. There's an apple pie, already cooked, pancakes on the left, and raw pancakes dough on the right, with PB&J sandwiches. But this is not all. Ingredients to cook burgers are also visible, and probably even more are in the fridge. I have a gift for you, Dean explains, smiling widely as he fidgets the pocket of his jeans. Ta-da! Ta-da! He exclaims, holding a little red wooden box between them. Open it, he tells Cass, who's looking at the box, puzzled. The angel takes it and does as told. Dean, what's that? Cass asks. He said it's not tilted anymore, but he looks at Dean questioningly. I've been looking for it for a long time, and I finally found it. I was thinking that today might be a good day to give you this gift, since Dean says, acting goofy, but Cass rolls his eyes. He doesn't know what this one. He still doesn't know what this one small green ball is for. I know it's Valentine's Day, Dean. Isn't that why Sam and Eileen left the bunker with Jack for a few days? Because, you know, Cass stops and lifts his arms, then adds, we were celebrating it too loudly last year. Using the air quotes, Dean's cheeks burn slightly pinkish, remembering the reason for the loud noises last year. He swallows hard. Eat it, Dean orders. He can't wait any longer for the next part of the surprise. You want me to eat the ball? Cass asks. And Dean looks at him like he expects him to realize the innuendo, but he never does. In a way, he thinks that makes it even funnier. At least it makes him feel fonder of Cass. Dean nods, looking at Cass lovingly. With that gaze, he could make Cass do anything, even if Angel doesn't really need to do everything for Dean. Cass swallows the ball. What now? Come, sit here. Dean leads Cass to the kitchen's table by grabbing his arm, and Cass lets himself to be dragged where Dean wants. Cass settles while Dean grabs the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on the counter and brings them to the table. He looks excited, and Cass still doesn't understand why, but he smiles because he loves seeing him happy. Though he knows peanut butter and jellies could do that to someone, because he used to feel like this one he was a human and could taste them. He still misses them. Dean pushes the plate towards Cass. Eat, he offers, smiling proudly. They sure look good, and Cass would love to do that. They are just going to taste like molecules. He can't refuse though. Not even Dean. Not when Dean looks at him like that with big wide eyes. He looks like the child he was never allowed to be. Cass grins at him and picks one up. Dean watches him expectantly as Cass leads it slowly to his mouth and takes a bite. Suddenly, Dean sees Cass's eyes open widenly. Dean, he exults, his mouth full. I know. Dean nods, smiling. He did good on this one and feels proud when he sees how Cass takes one bite after another with really breathing. Easy, tiger. Slow down. Dean chuckles. But Dean, I can taste it. Like human taste it. Cass observes, then adds, how is this even possible? Cass asks, picking up another sandwich. That green ball is responsible for it, Dean explains as he takes one sandwich for himself. I guess, Dad. Where did you find it? Cass asks, his mouth filled again with peanut butter and jelly. I'm not going to reveal all my little secrets. I guess I'll have to make you spit it out then, Cass says, smirking. Right, Dean answers and swallows hard. But first, we're going to a big and tasty day ahead of us. You should try my burgers, Dean says as he gets up, walks towards the kitchen. Later, now that they are settled in the Dean cave in front of the movie to digest every meal Dean prepared, he needs to know. So what's your favorite meal then? Pie? I'm sure it's pie. Or burgers. I did them real good today. Dean shifts in Cass's arms because he wants to look at him when he answers. You, Dean. Dean cheeks turn really pink this time. It's even perceivable with only the TV screen's light on. Dean doesn't have time to say more that Cass's lips takes possession of his hungry, and despite all this food, he I I hope you enjoy this little read of mine. Yes, but now we are done with some supernatural, and let's see what could be the next one. There are a few more stories left, so why don't we go for this one here? Yes. Actually, not this one just yet. This could be our finale. Yes, I'm going to keep this secret for you guys for now. But this, on the other hand, yes. Since we have been on a little bit more on the fantasy side, why don't we take a little bit more technical sides and go for something more scientific, you might add. This story here is called The Blue Meaning of Life. And just a minute, I'll adjust this. Here we go. The Blue Meaning of Life written by Zombie Heroine. This here actually is not that, it's not so much of a romantic story, more of oh damn it, again. Apologies. But yes, like I was saying, this story is not really a romantic one actually, it's more on the friendship side, you could say. Although the tag said friendship / love. But I'm gonna go and say this is a little bit more on the friendship side, because in the end, even though Valentine's Day is for couples and love and all that, let us remember that love and relationships can come in many different forms, and friendship is certainly one of them. And it also deserves its own part here. So, I guess without any further ado, let us start this story. Once again, the story is the Blue Meaning of Life by Zombie Heroine. Visiting Kaon had been a terrible, wonderful idea. Orion had known that already when he had boarded the train, trembling with excitement, and he knew it now when he was finally here by his new friend's side. Megatronus was almost exactly like he had imagined, only more. Now that they weren't restricted by only letters, and they could just let the words flow, there seems to be no end to the chatter. They had to talk about anything and everything. They blabbled on uninterrupted as Megatronus led the way through the network of streets and alleys, the crowd parting for his big frame and commanding EM field, almost like they were alone in the streets. If everyone is an individual, then naturally what follows is that every individual value is the same. It must be constant, Orion explained. Megatronus shook his helm to him while elbowing them to a path across busy traffic lane. Not necessarily, my friend, he argued back. Just because each individual has a unique set of features doesn't mean that those features cannot be valued differently. Standards don't necessarily come from within. They are constant in the world around us. But the culture is made up by and of individuals, all parts of our culture that classify us, assign number to our worth, or names to our functions, are of this current system, which is the one we must go against, Orion replied. I mean also outside of our culture, Megatronus said. The law of physics, for example, they exist for the same for all of us, always have and always will, whenever a species or our world even exists or not. Those are the standards, my friend. No ideology, either theirs or ours, will reach those, and that's why they are the standards. They don't change, I agree, but we still decide what we think about them, Orion answered as they continued along a curved walking street towards the heart of the city. We cannot change the universe, but we do decide what value we place on its parts. Now Megatronus didn't argue back anymore, but he did Orion a curious look that told him he still had something to say. Uncharacteristically, he seemed to be at loss with words, and now tactical step back to riff on his point. Orion held a strong gaze effortlessly, eagerly, and without a single flicker of an optic. He wanted to know. Finally, Megatronus seemed to come to a conclusion, put a servo Orion's shoulder guard, his large talons carefully on his thin plating. Let me show you what I mean, was all Megatronus said before he took a surprising turn, and Orion hurried to follow him. Apologies. My nose is running a little bit here. There we go, much better. The pit didn't only live up to the rumors, but exceeded them easily. The air was thick with electricity that was more in the atmosphere than anything else, and the bright, dramatic neon signs and spotlights left the audience and the corners of the stands in the deep darkness, illuminated by the biolights on the mecha seated there. The audience stands rose like large stone stairs around the arena, and in the middle of them, down below, was the pit, the death arena, the damnation, filled with smooth, glimmering black sand. Orion didn't belong in the crowd, but blended in almost too well. He was smaller than any badlanders there, and blander than any high case mecha coming to enjoy the blood sport. And among them, he was so inconspicuous that it was a miracle that no one sat on him. He wondered if this was thanks to Megatronus, because he found his son's seat in the champion's corner vacant, and no one stopped or questioned him when he sat there, even though he got many looks. Watching the pit fight made Orion's plating crawl. First this evening were the matches of criminals to fight for their freedom, or be executed against each other, or against the professional gladiators. A rather clumsy display, but a good warm-up for the audience. Only after them the multi-faced scoreboard above the pit turned on, showed point score with names. Then professional gladiators stepped into the arena. The bets were off, and the ranked fights began. First for teams and pairs. Only after those came the long-awaited one-on-ones. The crowd roared, credits changed servos as Energon was spilled in the pit, and through it all, Orion thought the only one thing: this is wrong. Was this the core of their culture? Was this the venting of the frustration of their kind? Mecha watching others tearing each other apart for credits, and the fallen ones hold of a scrap and spare parts already forgotten. The arena of black sand was like sparkless optics of death staring at him. This couldn't be right. And then, finally, came the moment everyone had apparently been waiting for. The jewel of the event and the reason for showing up and all for those who didn't have credits to bet. fought their way up through the ranks and still functioned the fastest, strongest, meanest killing machines the Badlands had to offer. Each one got a single feature with their design announced, but no one else got response like Megatronus did. Featured last, but the crowd roared the loudest. The champion, the terror of Kaon. Orion watched Megatronus spread his arm, a sword in one servo, a shield in another, basking in the promised praise and glory, and he felt a new feeling settling in his tank. Fear. The champion always fought until his termination. The gladiators fought only one-on-one, and Megatronus was facing all of them. Orion felt his spark first freezing, and then burning hotter than it needed when he watched. The possibility of immediate and final termination became startlingly real when the first fight broke out, and the fear never eased its hold on him. Even when his friend fought and won one match after another, death would be final. That gaping void, the nothingness waiting for them was there, and Orion felt it touching him, reminding him that there was, ever present and all-powerful, and down in the pit, his dear friend was toying with it. The black sand glowed where Energon hit it, soaked and messy as the gladiators wrestled and stumbled in it. Megatronus struck and slashed with his sword and protected his front and flank with the shield. He moved fast and nimble for a mech of his size, and he attacked relentlessly, never forced back, and seemingly never tiring. Energon splattered, and his unpainted, modest grey armor was dripping with it. And when he finally won the last of the matches, he threw his arms open and received thunderous applause and cheers from the audience as the blue field ran down his steaming frame. And Orion understood that Megatronus wasn't Kaon's favorite only because of his fighting skills, but also because of how he presented. It was like he had defeated death for all of them. The arena started to slowly empty as the crowd poured out into the night in search of drinks and other distractions. But Orion followed Megatronus' instructions into the maintenance tunnel and the catacombs running below the arena. Again, he was made to feel like an honored guest of some sorts, since he could just walk through the doors. Gates were lifted for him, and no one questioned his presence, even once before he stepped into a large hall filled with medical berths, loitering gladiators, and other staff, and a big pile of scrap by the gateway to the hallway leading to the arena. 9 of the gladiators were being patched up. 5 of them were nowhere to be seen. 5 of them have joined the scrap pile, and Megatronus stood in the middle of the room, waiting for Orion. He looked larger now, both because of the low ceiling and the blue stains on his armor that he had casually wiping clean with a rag when he nodded up to Orion and gestured him to watch him. This is the nature of our existence, my friend, Megatronus said to Orion once he stood in front of him. All of us are fine warriors, and we all come from the ranks of the strongest they are, and yet we obey metal, just like any one of us, if it catches us. Orion stared up to his friend, firm and without flicker, even though the smell of processed energon was making his tank turn. Megatronus gave him a small smile and spread his arm to show the new scratches and the freshly welded wounds on his chassis. Metal didn't command me today. I get to be me yet another solar but a good story nonetheless. Different kind of friendship that we all know would change so much differently in considering how the show goes. Okay, I'm really sorry about all of this. Seems that I with not only I still have some of my flu left, but I have a feeling that it's also mostly because of how the weather is currently. So we are gonna have a little break here, just me right now ranting and just talking, while waiting for my water to warm up, because I feel like I need a bit more of my juice for my throat. I mean, I do have some throat pills that here, but I don't think they help out so much. Well, actually, why don't we try it quickly? I still get the warm juice. Let's have this honey here. Well, these are not really something you can buy bought from pharmacy. These are like regular ones from a normal store. Well, they can help out in some ways. But now, since we're in the realms of the science fiction, why don't we continue that route? This next one will be our second last story. There's one more left after this one. And like I said, this one will be some good old science fiction here. Certain science fiction, I'm sure many here no doubt recognize it. So first of all, the story here is simply called, drumroll please, The Surely Leave Garrus Wants to Forget. Oh yes, we're going for some good old Mass Effect here now. With the author text. There we go, much better. So, The Shore Leave Garrus Wants to Forget, written by ElfGirl931. A funny little story about, I mean, we all love Garrus in the Mass Effect universe, don't we? Sorry. Garrus is the bestie we all love. So of course there has to be a little bit about him, and not only him, but also our old favorite engineer and quarry and Tali. So yes, we're going to read a little bit of a shippy fic between Garrus and Tali, and yes, like the title also says, this surely won't be so good on them in the end, unfortunately. But before that, I quickly prepare my drink here. Once again, adding the honey first. It's always a good add. Honey is always good add for these kind of drinks. Not sure if you can hear my little ASMR. You could say, well, kind of ASMR, I guess. And letting the juice in. There we go. Some blueberry juice. And finally, the water. There we go. There's the honey and everything, so I guess we're now done. I guess with everything here, we can continue now this story. Well, start reading actually. We're not continuing because, yeah, apologies. Alright. So, once again, the story is called The Shore Leave Garrus Wants to Forget by ElfGirl931. So, extra food exclusively. Gary struggled to keep his voice casual without quite knowing why. Callie was his squad mate, a friend even, and there was no reason to act like a fumbling adolescent just to ask her to walk around with him as friends. She tilted her head a bit, and he could tell that she was smiling through her mask. That sounds great, Gareth. I didn't have any particular plans tomorrow. It would be nice to have some company, as long as we can stop by Canal Export and see if they have any new shotguns. That is, it's a deal. I'll meet you on the docking bay after we land. He waved goodbye and strolled out the engineering deck, only letting out his deep breath when the elevator doors opened. Spirits, I do not feel giddy. This is ridiculous. When the Normandy finally docked to the next day cycle, Gareth thought he might have bitten off more than he could chew, as Shepard liked to say sometimes. When he talked to Tally last night, he hadn't foreseen just how nervous the prospect of spending one-on-one with her would make him. He had to conclude that he was feeling something more than friendship towards her, which complicated things quite a bit. And if she thought this was some sort of date... Spirits, he muttered for the third time, wishing he had a gun. At least then he wouldn't be standing like an idiot outside the airlock, his hands hanging uselessly at his side. The rest of the crew had already disembarked and headed down the elevators. He wondered if Tally was even coming. Just when he thought he wanted to give up and leave, the Normandy's doors hissed open and Tally came out. Sorry I'm late, Gareth. I had to repair my suit before I could leave. Is it something serious? He asked as they headed towards the elevator. Not at all. It happens from time to time, especially if I get clumsy. The Normandy has a lot of sharp edges, and even if I don't rupture the suit completely, I have to make sure any fraying gets sealed. I thought Warren suits were resistant to ripping, Gareth commented as he pushed the button. Now shut up, Lord. Of course they are. But as I said, I get clumsy and the elevator had only traveled a few hundred feet when it jerked downwards violently, throwing Tally and Gareth off their feet. It made a terrible screeching sound before grinding to a halt completely, and the red light began to flash through the compartment. Please remain calm, the VI's voice intoned coolly. Your elevator has experienced a malfunction, and help is on the way. Wonderful, Tally groaned. Gareth, can you please get your leg off me? It weighed a ton. Gareth answered with a grunt awkwardly, trying to maneuver himself from off of his back. When he bent his knee, there was a loud ripping sound under them. Keela, Tally muttered into ensuing silence. Your spores ripped my suit! Please let her be choking, Gareth thought feverishly as he sat up all the way. A large gas ripped across the purple patterned glove of her leg, exposing pale skin. Tally, let me see it. Maybe I have some Omnigel, he babbled as his hands hovering over the gash, but not daring to touch it. She waved him off, already punching commands into her Omnitool. Stay calm. You didn't pierce the skin. I'm not going to die immediately. I probably need to get back to see Dr. Chakwas very soon, though. She looked at him from her position on the floor, and her voice took on an amused tone. Stop running your hands, Caris. See if you can call maintenance and get them hurry up. Garrus placed a few calls, including one to Shepard, which seems to speed up the process considerably. They only sat for an hour before a crew got the elevator moving. Then back in the Normandy, Chuckwas and Tally managed to get things patched up more quickly than they thought. Since they had been in a relatively sterile space, no contaminants had managed to get into Tally's suit. And the doctor declared that she was safe to take her surely for the rest of the day. No hard feelings, Garrus, Tally said. Dr. Chuckwas was surprisingly knowledgeable of water and biology. I'm perfectly alright, and my suit is good as new. She tilted her head a bit, and he thought she might be smiling again. I'm still up for that extra cafe, if you are. They took a different elevator then. Not set up word this time, chatting animatedly about the new shotguns and arguing about the upgrades to the army tools. Neither of them knew that the latest D trucks food shipment to their particular cafe had been particularly mixed up with liver food shipment, and both were in for a long night with Chuckwas and treatment for food poisoning. Yes, quite surely for both Garrus and Tally. Would you say? Would you agree? Yeah. Yeah. Apologies. Well, my throat kind of distracting me, but I thought about it. I don't want to waste too much time here. That's a good one. And now, actually. There we go, I have another quick sip. And now, you could say we are now finally reaching the final story here for tonight. And it's another little bit more interesting one, and we are now once again a little bit more on the romantic side, but then again, this is something you can go decide yourself if this is more on the romance side or on the friendship side, or even somewhere in between. The story here is something I say it's a good way to end, since this is something that this fanfic, well, not the fanfic itself, or what the fanfics read about it. Well, actually, I will first give you the text, the name of the story we're going to read. It is simply called We're a Team. Nothing too well difficult this time. Not that long of a title. We're a Team, written by Crumbs27, and this here is a good old Hololive fanfic, but not once again, damn it. But this is once again a good old Hololive fanfic. Well, more like a Holomyth story, you could say. Since technically Holomyth is what started my journey here, so I think it's just fitting that this would be the final story for tonight for us to read before I'm ending this and preparing myself for next week. Yes. This here is pretty much some fluffy story about the whole of Holomyth, pretty much. So it's not just simple like Takamori, Ametori, or Amesame, and so on and so forth. It's all five together. But once again, this is the kind of a story you can try to think about this is more on the friendship side or the romantic side. It's your call. But now, without any further ado, let us go for tonight's final story, We're a Team, by Crumbs27. Amelia's wrist burned from the ropes that currently suspended her a foot off the floor. She was tired, sore, and soaked in rainwater. chuckled at Logie right into his face. Amelia hucked Logie right into his face. He stared at her in disbelief, and Amelia felt immensely satisfied before someone collided with the side of her face, and she tasted that familiar metallic flavor of her own blood. She hucked a second, redder Logie, but he avoided that one. Very well then, if you shall not cooperate, I'll simply dispose of you and pry the identity of the traitor from the next detective to take the case. Quick as a flash, the rope above her head was cut, and Amelia fell simply to the floor. At his command, the goons pulled her to her feet. She had no energy to fight back. She supposed she had this coming. Her own damn hubris had once again put her in harm's way, and she'd been facing the consequences. She shouldn't have left without Myth. They were always much better at keeping her safe than she was herself. Too late for that now, though. She was currently staring down the barrel of her own Smith & Wesson. She closed her eyes. Amelia stifled a yawn and adjusted her glasses. She suddenly cursed at Hoover for leaving her to finish the report. She'd been at it for 6 hours and wasn't even halfway done. The lack of sleep wasn't affecting her work ethic, but it was affecting its quality. She kept having to go back and redo entire paragraphs because she either written something totally illegible or because she missed a vital information. She jumped when she felt something soft and heavy land on her lap. At first it was Wellington or Henry, so imagine her surprise when she looked down to see Gura's head resting comfortably on her thighs. Gura, not now. I'm busy. Gura looked up at her and scowled. You need to go to sleep. Finish the report tomorrow. No, I need to finish this now. Go on to bed. But Gura didn't do that, and Amelia jumped at the second time when something cold and rough crawled around her calf. Amelia gave Gura an amused look. Gura only grinned at her, rows of sharp teeth glistening in the light of her monitor. Don't you dare! But it was too late. Gura galloped off. My apologies. Gura galloped off on all fours, dragging Amelia behind her with her tail. Amelia holding onto her desk chair for her dear life. Amelia tried and failed several times to grip onto something to stop, but it was no good. She was soon deposited into their bed, and Gura tucked her in and kissed her on the forehead. Good night, sunshine, Amelia grumbled half-heartedly, but Gura only smiled at her. Love you too, she said as she turned the light off and padded out the door. Amelia soon forgot to be angry and fell into a deep, steady sleep. When she awoke the next morning, she found that the file was in the worst, most unprofessional state she ever seen, and that the report had been more or less completed. Sure, there were a few glaring issues and spelling errors, but even then, she had it to she had it to her standards in less than a half an hour. She was very impressed. She found Gura in the kitchen with a glass of milk. She thanked her for her help, and Gura winked at her. Okay, once again having a drink. My throat is feeling extra dry right now, and it's a little bit affecting me while I try to read these. So once again, my apologies. Back to the story. Amelia often went days forgetting to eat. was incurable workaholic, and by the time she realized she was running on empty, the week was halfway over. "Ame!" came a familiar voice of Kiara as she stepped into the home office with oven mitts and an apron on. "It's almost time for dinner!" I'm busy," Amelia said without looking up from the monitor. Kiara looked unimpressed. "That's what you told me last night," she said shortly. "So? And the night before?" Amelia froze and looked at Kiara. I did?" Kiara's face morphed into one of irritation to pity. "Have you seriously not eaten out all week?" In all honesty, Amelia couldn't remember. She thought she had a nutrition bar for breakfast yesterday, but she didn't say that. Her silence was enough of confirmation for Kiara. And she strode over and tucked Amelia under her arm like a sack of flour. "Oh shit, Kiara!" Kiara just laughed her usual chuckling laugh and carried Amelia to the dining room, where the others were already seated, and watched with bewilderment. She was plopped firmly but gently into her seat between Gura and Ina. The food was delicious, something not out of the ordinary for Kiara. In all honesty, she couldn't stay sulky for long, and was even kind of grateful that Kiara took such great care of her. Not that she ever admitted that to her face. There we go. Sorry, I had to crack my neck a little bit. That was a good crack. And now, as it turned out, spending hours upon hours hunched over a computer wasn't good for you. Ah, fuck! Nina had been painting when she heard that, and had almost dropped her brush into her lap. She hurried out in the hallway, just in time to see Amelia straightening herself once more, with some support from the wall. "Are you okay?" she asked. Amelia jumped. She thought she was the only one home. Yeah, I'm fine. Just a little cramp." Nina didn't look convinced. "Is your back giving you problems again?" "It's no big deal. I can..." But before she could finish, Ina had grabbed her hand and pulled her into the living room. She laid her down on the couch with her chin on her arms and her legs dangling off the headdress. She then grabbed the chair from the dining room and sat down before her. "A little back rub will do you some good," she said kindly. "If you wanted your hands on me so badly, you could have just asked," Amelia joked. The tips of Ina's pointy ears turned rosy, but she just laughed and got to work. Amelia found herself almost purring as Ina's slim, delicate, but deliberate fingers traced in between her muscles and spinal cord, magically untangling the knots she found there. It wasn't long before the last of her aches had disappeared, and she felt like running a marathon. She got up, stretched a bit, and pulled Ina into a hug. "Thanks for that. It felt amazing." Ina turned a little pink and smiled bashfully. "Anytime." Today was the worst day of the year. They all knew this. It was an unspoken rule that Amelia disappeared every year at the same exact time, only coming back when the clock struck midnight to marathon of cuddles and comfort food. It was the anniversary of her uncle's disappearance. That made it worse, she felt. She never actually knew what happened to him, and nobody else did either. Not even Crony did. But Callie did. It was part of being a Reaper, really. Callie had detailed repository-like knowledge of everyone who had ever died. One had to wonder how she could function with all that much information in her brain. up trying to ask Callie for specifics years ago. Being personification of death actually came with surprising amount of rules, even if you were on a hiatus. One of those rules was that you aren't allowed to discuss the inner workings of death with mortals. She physically could not do it. Amelia had accepted the explanation and even made it abundantly clear that she didn't blame her. It didn't stop Callie from feeling guilty, though. It was probably why she was so surprised that out of all of the girls, Amelia had chosen to walk into her room today. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Callie just moved her guitar, and Amelia came and sat in her lap. Kelly wrapped her arms around her waist and rested her chin upon her golden hair. Would you like to talk about it? She said as the two lay together. Amelia shook her head. Kelly nodded and squished her a little. That's okay, dude. I understand. You know, I don't blame you for what happened, right? She said in a voice that was uncharacteristically meek for her. Kelly leaned back and looked her in her puffy blue eyes. Of course I know, she said. Amelia averted her gaze. I guess I'm just being silly. You think I'd be over it by now? Don't talk like that, Kelly said. It's okay to miss someone. Do you ever miss someone? Kelly hesitated. But she said, I used to, but then I stopped running away. Amelia laughed, a wet, pathetic laugh, and though it was something, Kelly smiled. It was a blur. Gura had used her claws to slash the legs of both coons and was pinning them on the floor beneath her. Ina has used one of her tentacles to grab the boss by his ankle and suspended him in the air, while Kiara and Callie both pressed the points of their blades against his neck. Ina had helped her to her feet and set her down on a nearby desk chair. She met the terrified gaze of her former captor and screamed at him triumphantly. God have mercy on him. Yes, God have mercy on him. But we know Matsuri has no mercy for him. Well, this has been an interesting and fun time once again. I really hope that everyone listening here has enjoyed their time here, listening to me reading these stories, and once again, a little bit going through hiccups here and there. But I would say this, in my opinion, at least at this stream, went much better than the last time, even though it seems I still have some little troubles with my throat and all, but yes, I think this all went rather well. And I really hope that you all will be joining me on the next stream. Honestly, I am not fully sure when I can do when I'll be streaming next time, but I'll let you all know. I'll let you all know when I'm more sure of it, but at least maybe a couple of weeks, maybe more on the March I can do another stream, but it depends. I will also see if I can pull something next week again. Maybe not a reading stream, but let's get some good old gaming at least. So without any further ado, once again, I hope you all enjoy this stream of mine, and we'll come back for the next ones, and we'll be also coming around when I'll be releasing some projects. Actually, yeah, I actually try to release some 2 different kind of actual audio stories again to my channel. I'll try to get them done by the end of February, end of this month, pretty much. So I try to get things somewhat completed for the once again for the Valentine's Day, but but I then got very sick, and as you can still hear that I still bear something from my sickness, which is very annoying. So yes, but I hope you have once again enjoyed this, and I'll be keeping you all informed when I'll be doing the next stream, and I also keep you informed on my project when they are done and when I'll be releasing them. So keep a look on my Twitter when that happens. And now, without any further ado, I thank you all. Thank you for joining in and enjoying this little story night time. And till next time, everyone, I'll be seeing you around the corner. Take care. Goodbye.